Buildings are per se very complex because you always build a prototype. It's not like in the cars, you like design, engineer a car, and then you produce thousands, millions of it. So buildings they are usually always unique.
Hi everyone, a very nice welcome on Aulium. Markus, a pleasure to be with you again.
Thank you. Guten Tag, Dominik. Nice to have a fellow German speaker on the podcast.
Guten Tag.
Hi Dominik. I wouldn't be able to say hello in German, but I'm just saying hi. Well, guten Tag. So today we were with Dominik. So you are one of the co-founder of a Vienna-based startup called Optimuse. You very recently raised a 4 million euro round. So you'll tell us a bit more about that in a few minutes. And Optimuse is really leveraging AI for the building industry and to allow like constructors, builders, and planners to be much more efficient in terms of first speed, accuracy, and also in terms of sustainability. But all of that, we'll speak about this in a few minutes. So very much like to start the conversation. Again, thank you to be with us. But to start the conversation, could you essentially describe Optimuse? What do you do? What does it do? Really, and how do you leverage AI in the process? That would be absolutely amazing. So we understand, well, the product.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Thomas. You already described it a little bit, right? So, we from Optimuse here, based in Vienna, we are a software company, and we use AI to automate the engineering processes of buildings. That means like we leverage this technology in order to completely automate how you could actually engineer a building. And with that, we will actually result in buildings that are more cost efficient in the construction, in the operation, and way more sustainable. So we actually give this powerful tool to our customers. And so with that, they are able to identify what are the best systems, for instance, to cool, to heat, to ventilate a building, and to really also make it comfortable.
Is it about like plans, or is it, as you said, more about analyzing a plan and say to install like a very efficient heating system, you should use this and this product rather than those ones? Or is it about the plans, or is it really about like, almost consulting services?
It's actually consulting services. So that means like we are usually used in a very early phase of a project where you have to take the strategic decisions, what actually you would like to install in a building or how you would like to renovate a building. However, we are able to automate the process that actually follow. That means, to give you a clear example, if you plan actually now to install a heat pump into a building, we are able to actually place the heat pump correctly, autonomously. We are able to calculate how much would this heat pump need to be sized, how much energy would it consume, and how many emissions would it produce. So all of these steps that usually follow after it, we are able to automate, and this gives you actually an advantage to compare a lot of variants that usually manually are actually not possible to do, right? You usually compare 2 or 3 strategies or 2 or 3 systems. We are able to even compare the hardware providers. We're able to tell you specifically on this building, should you use this heating system from this manufacturer or should you use another one? And this is actually where you get the huge cost savings or operational savings.
Okay, makes sense. And so how did you get to Optimuse, really? Can you walk us through a bit, about your background, your own journey? How did you essentially land in the construction space? Were you an engineer before?
Yeah, I actually was not a construction engineer. So I studied information systems. So I'm a computer scientist based here in Vienna. So studied in Vienna, in the US and in Hong Kong, and then went on to Boston Consulting Group. So there I actually was doing a lot of projects in the industrial automation side. So always based on like also AI, how can we automate manufacturing processes? How can you really automate the last pieces of assembly lines? And this already was like a little bit of a point, okay, industrial manufacturing is already very highly automated in some parts. And they also like really invest a lot of effort or also a lot of money, especially in doing that. Afterwards, I moved on to Bitpanda. Bitpanda, probably is one of the leading crypto platforms in Europe. And there I was actually leading the product, especially in the broker trading. So I was leading the whole development, the strategic side, and as well the product management side. And there actually it was really interesting is actually how you develop a product, how you define a product, and how you literally bring it to life, right? Especially from a software company perspective. I wasn't long there, so around 6 months. And then I founded with two friends. And then after I founded Optimuse. So Optimuse was founded by three founders. So me, myself, was Fabian and Felix. Fabian is the one that actually came up with the idea. So he's an architect by training. He also programs a lot. And he was the one that was like, how we currently engineer buildings, it's on one side, very manual. And on the other side, it's really inefficient. So we usually take systems that are not even appropriate for the building. So there are a lot of potential that is unlocked that you actually don't use because we don't see it or people don't know it and so on. And the key here is like you cannot just plan everything or evaluate all the variants. You need to automated engineer. And the good thing is engineering is actually, it comes from building science. So like there is a science behind it. There is like a right or true. There is an optimization behind it that you can actually base on and that you can actually find the best solution. And then we sat together. It was already like, I think a year before we literally started the company full time. And we just thought how we could do it, how we could approach it and so on. And then we've also brought Felix on board. Felix is our CTO and he's literally a software engineer. And it started in the living room. So it started in the living room, trying out what could we do.
Not a startup garage, it's a startup living room.
We didn't have a garage, so that doesn't make a difference. We started in a living room and it was also Corona time. So lots of time, especially in the night. So we worked through usually in the night. So we had our full-time jobs. We worked in the night and we just tried to build something, right? And afterwards we found out there is actually something that we could literally sell. And that's where the moment was where we started actually to plan out a little bit how could this journey really financially make sense? How could we actually start everything? And what would the next steps be? And that's what.
So, I mean, we'll cover this a bit later about, regulations that are actually very much pushing your solutions forward. But what was like the trigger moment, maybe not for you, but for your co-founder? What was the first angle? Was it around more sustainability and energy saving, or was it more about like efficiency in terms of speed and cost? What came first, essentially, in that project?
The first driver was definitely sustainability. So there was a huge wave in terms of sustainability, ESG, and you have to make sustainability economically feasible. And that's not usually quite easy in the built environment. And so that's why you need actually the systems to really provide you what is the most cost-effective way to achieve your emission targets or your sustainability goals.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, very often regarding ESG, people have trouble to essentially link ESG and ESG criteria to, real business, some sort of hardcore business data and business metrics. It's something you actually do too. So you essentially price in some way the fact that a building is not optimized or not in some way.
We literally look at the core components of the buildings, right? So we look at usually based on the materials that we have in the building, how much does the building actually require in terms of energy or in terms of emissions? And that's the important part because you can always say like, I just don't heat it, right? Then you don't have consumption, right? You can also save emissions. However, the building is still, in terms of energy demand, it's still not good, right? So if another tenant comes in, then he still has a building that from the material side is not good. And we optimize that. So we optimize it from the building science part.
And so based on the story you just told us about the genesis of the project, it feels that it was a relatively straightforward route. And I'm sure it's not, having been in the startup world for some time now, and I almost know it's not straight. So what was essentially the first sort of idea and project, and how did it evolve to what Optimuse is today? Have you made some sort of pivot, or did you bet on some ideas and quickly realize they were not the right ones? I mean, what was essentially the not so linear path?
Yeah. It actually started, we started very focused actually, which is usually a good thing, right? So we started saying like, look, we automate the engineering of security systems. And then typically the customers would there be engineers, so engineering company. And the pitch was quite straightforward from a business perspective. You say like, I can save you 80% of the time, so you can do more projects and you can get more revenue. And it didn't work. Interesting, it didn't work because the pitch was like, okay, you are doing 80% of the time of the tasks. However, I need to check everything. And so I would just do it myself. So that was really interesting. So because financially it makes sense, but the customers didn't want it. Yeah. So that's sometimes happen. And then we had actually to pivot. So we literally talked to everyone. I mean, like from the facility management companies to property developers, and really try to get an understanding of how does the market actually works? Where are liabilities? Where are tasks? Who actually manage something or manage the money, or what is the impact? And then we started finding out that actually there are a lot of hidden costs everywhere. That means like, because, for instance, to give you an example, you as a property developer usually don't have like the very deep knowledge into, let's say, technical systems. That means like usually like you request proposals from your partners. And because they only have a specific amount of time to submit a proposal, they just guess. They guess what they actually need. They don't plan it out. They guess usually, like, and with experts. And to be on a safe side, they usually put a lot of buffer in it in terms of the costs. And these are the hidden costs, right? And this is where we found out, wait, so there are lots of higher costs usually than it's really would have, if you plan it out correctly, then you would actually be able to reduce costs. And on the other side, they actually just always do the same system that they are used to do. Yeah, because they don't want to take the risk with a rough planning to just propose you a system that maybe wouldn't work in the future. And this was the bottleneck. And this is where we started actually to see. The only thing was like, it's very, very complex. So you are in a world here where you have to plan out very detailed systems. You have to understand systems, and it's not straightforward. And that was like actually what we said, okay, this is really a huge challenge for the whole industry actually. If we want to solve it, we need to spend 2 years in research. We need to understand the systems. We need to understand the science behind it. We need to really be able to calculate everything that comes to us. And that's what we did. Yeah. So we spent literally 2 years in research, and that's where we we launched our solution in last year, in January. And that was quite big for some of the companies in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Just in terms of the research. So you mentioned you spend a lot of time looking at the market, and I think that's actually really, a great way to approach it. It's probably because of your consulting background, which has been, I guess, very useful in this space. So, but thinking about the market, and you were already briefly mentioning in the introduction. So would you mind painting us a picture of the construction and renovation market? So how does it actually work? Who are the key players, and what makes the projects so complex in that space?
Yeah. So I would say the built environment is complex because, first of all, you have a lot of stakeholders. And that's a huge thing. Now I can talk mainly about Germany and Austria. I know that in countries like UK, the US, it's a little bit different. So you have more like the general contracting business. That means you have like one party that you, as a property developer, you talk to, and they manage almost everything, right? So in Germany, especially in Germany and in Austria, you have a lot of stakeholders. So let's say, give you one case. You plan to do a building, then you usually have an architect, then you have like an energy engineer, then you have like a mechanical engineer, then you have an electrical engineer, then you have a sustainability engineer. So all of these parties, and they actually live in their silos. They are experts in their silos. So if you go, for instance, to one expert and say like, give me your best solution, then he usually does not consider, okay, what could be possible in the other domains. Yeah. And this is how it actually starts, right? So there are ways where you say like you go to one company and they do integral planning. So that means they will do everything. They have the whole projects on their site. But it's still usually the case that you have like a lot of stakeholders, different companies, and you're very risk averse. What is currently the case? So currently, 2 years ago, there was a huge driver in terms of sustainability. So there was a lot of money being spent, invested in buildings, which was really good. Now the dynamic changed, and now they look at it in a very financial perspective again. So if they look to invest in buildings, they look at how can I get the money back? What is the return on investment? Is the return on investment 10 years, 2 years, or even 25 years? Is it feasible? Do I get the financing? And these are actually now the biggest drivers. Lots about costs, and especially how can I future-proof my building? And future-proofing the buildings means sustainability, means you can rent it, means you have a very favorable valuation, you have a very good location. So all of these factors now play a role.
And so what is it that makes these projects so complex? Is it the fact that there's so many parties that are involved?
Yeah, so buildings are per se very complex because you always build a prototype. It's not like in the cars, you like design, engineer a car, and then you produce thousands, millions of it. So buildings they are usually always unique. Even if they look maybe similar, they have different technical systems, that they have different components in it, that there was maybe a change in it, or like something is faulty and so on. So you always have to look at the building at the prototype. That means every prototype, you have to restart the analysis. You always have to go very deep and to understand what you should do. And this is what it makes it complex. And the other side is that buildings are getting more complex because new buildings nowadays are like machines. Yeah, if you look at a new building, if you go in and you look around, there are so many technical systems. You have sensors everywhere. You have like smart building systems, right? Like they have automated shadings, ventilation, so on. This is a machine, and you need to plan a machine, and that's like where the new challenge comes in. So you have like multiple products. You need to identify how do they combine, how do they integrate, how can they make it efficient, how can they make it work together, and this is where it gets very complex. Yeah.
Right. And so if you take a step back, so what are the, you already mentioned a few of the biggest forces. You mentioned sustainability was a big force and maybe is no longer a big force, and that finances is becoming more and more important. So like, how do you manage these? And, do you have to do some element of predicting what is going to be the core driver in the future as well?
So that was actually also something that really impacted us. So we focused 2-3 years ago solely on sustainability. And then we saw that the goals of our customers are very different. There are customers that say like, I want to increase the sustainability on all over my assets, and they really also want to invest in it. Then there are customers that say like, I want to achieve specific emission goals, but with the lowest amount of investment. And there are also customers, being honest, that say like, sustainability is something prior 3. I want actually to build this building, and I want to optimize how to build it. Yeah. So we need to be in the built environment. You need to be very, very, very flexible in terms of optimizations. What is the goals of your customers? What are the targets? Because there are always different reasons why you build, why you renovate, why you invest. And these different reasons you need to actually reflect there. Yeah.
And then, so just in terms of the AI element as well. So what is it that we hear AI a lot in almost every industry. There is AI in every industry, but then it's also very important, how to explain, I guess, how to use it efficiently. And so how would you say Optimuse fits within the wave, and what is it that makes your AI different from others, and why has it been successful?
Yes. So the thing of AI in the construction environment is that if you build something, you need to be sure that you build it correctly. Otherwise, you have a liability case. So customers would never trust if an AI tells you build the systems, they would not trust it, probably, or currently not. And that's the case. So like you always need, if you are in the core business or in the core engineering part of a building, you need to provide them results that are founded from trusted methods. Yeah. And that's what we do. So our engines are based on trusted methods that has been proven for the last 20, 30 years. That means like if you get a result like this, you can be sure that it was calculated correctly because it has been used and it has been proven. For us, AI is kind of like the orchestrator. So like always when you use a method to calculate maybe the energy demand or the emissions and so on, there's always a lot of data that you actually require. There is a lot of setup and so on of the systems. And this is where our AI comes into place. So we have AI that understands building data, is able to interpret building data, and also interact with it. So our customers can come with all of their building data. Doesn't matter in what format, in what actually quality, they can upload it, and our system understands it, converts it to an actionable, we call it digital twin. That means you can really actually work with it. You can say like, please AI, change me now the windows or propose me now the best windows. And then the AI goes actually to our engines, and this again are trusted engines in the market, and is able through that to tell what is the best system, and so you can actually close the gap. So the AI is actually the engineering consultant, the engineering as a service. Yeah.
Just something I'm thinking about right now. So because you are providing suggestions, are you doing maybe now, or is it a plan to suggest, products that would be advertised by partners, like a bit like, you want those windows, we suggest those ones. Okay, so there will be like
It's
an
not
advertising.
far. It's not far. Yes. Currently, our customers come and say like, I have 3-4 products which has been proposed to me. Which one is the best? And we are able to tell which one is the best.
So what's your secret sauce not to compromise your let's say independent advice?
It's the technical depth. Yeah, we don't do high-level evaluations. We don't do estimations and so on. We literally do engineering in the back, and that's our USP. Yeah, so that's also what we have been doing the last 2 years in research. We literally focused on how would an engineer approach this problem, and how can we make it in a very early phase? How can we actually bring this knowledge, bring these methods actually in an automated way in this early design phase? Because later on, you will still have an engineer that comes in. You will still have a consultant. You always have this. However, in these very early phases, you actually want to take the decisions very fast. You iterate, you have ideas, and usually then take the decisions where to go. And that's where we actually focus on. Yeah.
So you will never propose like a wooden door to a building that needs a door made of steel just because you are paid by the manufacturer providing wooden doors.
We always come from the indoors now, but let's say heating systems. Yeah, we would always we propose always like the best system that made from the technical specification side. Yeah, so that means that we really look at the technical specifications of components, and then our system is able to tell how they differentiate with others, and which one would they be based on this specification. Which one would be the best one for this building? You can always decide against it. You can always decide on other products, but scientifically, this one is the most optimal.
Interesting. And so what are some of the limitations of AI? Because, I can imagine that in a space where you're dealing with a lot of specialists, and often these specialists would have been in this industry for a while, how do you convince them? And, where are the elements where you still need to watch out? So essentially, hallucination, for example, or problems you could have with it.
So the trust is a very big factor in our industry, especially in the results that our customers get. They need to trust them because they are going to build on it. They're going to decide on it. So it took us quite a long time, let's say like around a year, to actually prove our capabilities, to prove our results and the quality of our analysis on real cases. That means like literally customers used our solutions on really, I would say, quite prestige projects, and they optimized it. And then with our results, they went to a construction company and said like, can you build this? Can you actually offer this savings? And actually they did. So I think the limitations, to go back to your questions, limitation of AI, we don't have that much of the issue of hallucinations, because the numbers that the AI always gets are based on these methods. And that's the core part. So these are based on these engineering methods. And our AI is the interpreter. That's like the system that helps you to understand it. That's the system that helps you to interpret, to maybe set up a new system and so on. But the calculations, the numbers that you get are always actually based on trusted methods. And that's the core part. Yeah.
Right. So essentially it's improving a process that was already happening before, but there's still humans involved in the process managing the data, right?
That's our customers, yeah.
Yeah.
That are our customers. So on our customer side, they are usually experts. Yes, they are experts that understand the data, and they understand what to do.
And do you think that right now we're already at a point where the AI is powerful enough? So if it didn't improve,
yeah,
is this good enough for you to continue in this space, or do you still need to see some additional developments?
There is a huge potential ahead. I think we are now at the beginning, to be honest. I mean, we are at the beginning of a building, the first phase of a building engineering here. Think about like if the system can actually plan out everything that you need, right? We are not there yet. Yeah. I also haven't seen companies that can actually do it completely, but that would give it like around 2 years. Yeah. And with the speed that we are currently moving with the AIs, and that will be game changing. Yeah. Because then you can literally plan and build and actually literally just plan a building within months. And then it's just about construction. But usually construction is not the problem. It's always the engineering part where you have a lot of iterations, a lot of changings, and so on. If you can do this process faster, cheaper, then you can literally actually build better buildings. Yeah.
So let's say like the current models do not evolve for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there is still like a massive highway of progression for your particular application.
I mean, you have like these higher models, like especially the general AIs, especially coming from the US. They currently are not very much in the geometrical side, on the geometrical space. They will be there, no questions asked. However, you have like the geometrical space, and then you have to go into the mechanical engineering space. And what people forget is like there is no good quality building data around. So there is no way actually to train these poor algorithms there. And that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I mean, AI is everywhere, but the AI is as good as the data you provide to the AI. Yeah, the question would be like, where do you get the data to essentially produce relevant outputs?
Yeah, we produce the data. That's the thing. That's the only way forward. That means like we get all the data from our customers. This is usually unlabeled, unstructured. It's a mess. And we structure it. So that means like our systems, they are able to identify data, they are able to label data, and we convert it into again like an actionable digital twin. But this is highly detailed building data, structured, labeled, and this is where you can actually train AI algorithms, or this is actually where you can understand buildings. Yeah. So that's the way we found. There is no data sets you can buy. There are some, but not enough. And you usually need it for, again, buildings are prototypes. That means you need a lot actually in order to have an AI that really works. Yeah.
Interesting. Moving on just quickly to regulation, because I know it's a space that's heavily regulated. I mean, from living in Germany, I remember how regulated it is, and it's very different to the UK, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, regulation is tightening everywhere, right? And from EU taxonomy to energy performance rules, which policies or objectives most shape your work today, and how do you see regulation as a challenge, but then also an opportunity for your business?
Yes. So regulations are, yes, they are tightening. However, they are also loosening some regulations. So it's a little bit of a friend. You always need to be very careful just to bet on regulations. Currently, the regulations that are that are increasing the demand on our solution are EU taxonomy, are you need to decrease the energy demand of your building, and you also need to document what you actually own. Yeah, in terms of like government starts now not to care just about like how much does your building consume, but what is literally the quality of your building, what is in your building, and this is actually what gets very important. On the other side, I think the biggest driver is actually the market dynamic. So it's the real estate market is getting tougher. That means you have now to compete to rent out, to get tenants, to rent out your building. I mean, especially in the office space. And that's where you have to invest in your building. That means like huge companies, they care about emission goals, they care about energy demands, they care about energy costs. And they rather move into a new building then into an older building, and they was also rather spend a little bit more, but just to get like the upside on having like a clean report. Yeah. So this is the huge, actually, the huge change now. They need to invest. How can I future-proof my building? How can I keep my investment? How can I keep my assets that are still valuable?
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
So all of this, I mean, you described a bit like your clients, like the market environment, etc., the complexity. It doesn't feel like necessarily like a product that would be super cheap. So it's not, I guess, like £100 a month kind of subscription.
No.
So how do you get to, if you could, I mean, you gave a bit of details on your types of clients, but how do you get to them? I mean, I guess, I mean, I don't know, how do you get to, the end client? Is it like direct, a lot of calls, like cold emailing, trade associations?
So it's actually a good question. So the construction industry, I would say, or construction real estate industry is still very conservative. That means that usually the best way to reach customers are through cold calling at trade fairs, right? There are very specialized trade fairs, and there you actually meet the decision makers there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is the two channels that we currently use a lot. And we usually talk to on a very strategic level with our customers. That means conversations, they are usually like managing directors are involved, especially in the big companies, managing directors involved, because we literally impact their core business. Think about like 3 young musketeers going into a huge construction company and telling them how they would change to build buildings. And this is what we actually did, and this is what we are keep doing it. Yeah. So that's why, coming back, trust is a very important thing, and we are improving there, and we are also showing case studies with top tier companies, and that's where you can trust us and really actually use our solution to improve your business.
And just quickly on the trust element, did you bring some experience, from because before you started, obviously you had to take your experience, right, or something like that. So is it your team who already has experience in the industry that have been able to deliver that?
Yes, we have all the experience that is required actually in the company, all here based in Vienna. So we have actually from building science, HVAC engineers, energy experts. They're all here with one goal. How can we automate this? So, and with their help, actually, we are actually achieving this.
And so in terms of, if you could maybe describe like the sort of journey for one specific client. So, I mean, you get to like an MD in a trade fair, let's say it works. So what do they need to do? I mean, they need to send you like all their proprietary data about all the construction they've done before for...
Absolutely not. So how it works is usually like you have a meeting, almost, but that would be a huge hassle for them, right? So they are like, then I need to collect all of the data and so on. That's a huge hassle for these customers. So how it works is like you usually have a meeting with the managing directors. Then you show them what is the potential, what is actually what you could change, and what is the upside for them. And it usually follows with a technical meeting where they bring their technical experts, and then they evaluate the methods. So coming back, so they evaluate how do we calculate the numbers. They need to trust it. So they evaluate the methods. They evaluate how we calculate it, how we do engineering, and then there is usually a POC. So a proof of concept, which means every customer wants to see the impact on their buildings. So they want to see, okay, now I want to try it out on a building that they know, that they really know the potential here, or that they already calculated it. And so we do paid proof of concept. They can select whatever building they want, and they upload everything, and then they get the results. And we actually help them to understand the data, to set up if they want changes, and so on. And this is then usually like the foundation that we use to get a bigger contract. Yeah. And for us, contracts, I mean, our usually ticket size, if I would say like for an average customer, we go like from 20, 30,000. There are customers that are even paying us like 500,000, 700,000 a year per year, because they have a huge demand in building analysis, in building engineering. Yeah.
How fast are you growing? Like, just, I don't know if it's something you can share, like not necessarily giving like exact number, but maybe pace, like to have an idea.
Yeah. So this year we tripled our revenue. So we tripled our revenue, and we are above so we are now already way above 1 million. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah.
You must be quite happy.
Yes. I mean, it's a team effort. Yeah. So like, I think there are always like, it's challenging and it's rewarding. Yes, definitely.
And so in your space and with your product, what would constitute a moat, or maybe like a very hard barrier to entry? Like, so yes, something that, I don't know, maybe 1 year in, for one more year in, what would create like an almost impossible situation for a newcomer to say, I'm going to do like them and essentially compete? What's the moat with the business?
Yeah, that's how so the competitive advantage that we have is like we combined this, I would say like these traditional methods, trusted traditional methods, with AI, with this new technology. That means new competitors, they would need to understand the traditional methods, how it actually is planned, because otherwise engineers will not trust it. And that's like the core part of, especially in this critical business. Yeah. You need people that are taking decisions, they need to understand where it comes from. Again, hallucinations. If you have hallucinations in an engineering process, that's really bad. And here we are talking about millions of costs, yeah, and losses. So competitive advantage is understanding buildings, being able to really detail them out, and doing the right engineering processes to provide the results.
And then just out of interest, so are there already any competitors in the market that you're aware of, or are you the first?
So there are similar companies, especially one similar company from Switzerland that is they're going the same way, the same direction. We have both the same vision, actually, to transform the built environment, make it more sustainable, make it better. And they take it a little bit, they have a different angle. So they are more focused on the asset management side. They see the solution is there. We see the solution is in the engineering. However, we have, I would say, like quite similar approaches in how to solve these calculations, and also how to derive solutions and strategies. Yeah.
Okay. Have you had like a specific project, like a light bulb moment, where you maybe run, your system on a first project, and at the end you were like, wow, it works?
How it usually is, you go to a customer and then you pitch, and then they say like, let's try it out with one of my buildings. And they usually take the most challenging building they ever had. That's usually how they do it. That's usually how it works. I don't know why, but they just like it. So I think it was 1.5 years ago, and one customer here in Austria, and they uploaded the building. I think the size was like 150,000 square meters. So it was so huge. Our system just went nuts. That was like way beyond that we have ever tested it. So it took us like some days actually to get a handle of our system. Yeah, that was actually the nice part was like the whole team was here like, oh wow, we need to do it. We need to get it going. We need to be able to transform it. Now you can come even with a building of 250,000 square meters. It does not matter. Like it works. Yeah. So I think this was like one moment, like you have like something unseen and something you are like, this will be challenging now. And then really with pressure, you need to deliver, like you need to bring back a result to our customer. And it worked, right? And that was super fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking based on what you mentioned, what about the compute side of things? So do you have to manage that in some aspect? Is that something that you have to manage, or do you have a provider that does that for you?
So we are actually, we are on this typical cloud providing services. Yeah. So we try to leverage as much as we can in terms of infrastructure as a service. Yeah. So a lot of things are managed. However, we also, because the data usually can explode. Yeah. So for you, like we usually generate for one building, I would say a building that is around 10,000 square meters, we generate up to 1 gigabyte of labeled data. So this is quite a lot, right? So I think about these huge buildings. So yeah, we have systems in place, and we have also team members here that are solely focused on the data part, that the data is stored correctly, and it also economically makes sense to store the data, and that we can access the data quite fast. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, because I guess that must be an important element as well. Yeah, moving on to fundraising and the business environment, which is part of what we like to focus here on the podcast. congrats on the 4 million seed round. You must be very happy.
Yes.
So what do you think? What do you think next to obviously, your great ability to pitch, etc.
Yep.
What was it that convinced your investors to go for this opportunity?
So, I mean, currently in the current, let's say, fundraising environment, you need to have some KPIs in order to actually make it. And this is like currently like the revenue and also the revenue prospects. And here for us, it was vital that we were already working with tier 1 players. Yeah, so tier 1 players already said like this can be game changing for us. And if this works, we're going to roll it out everywhere because this is really like something big. So this was one. Second was the technological part. So investors currently look at how easy it is actually to replicate what you're doing. So, and here it was also quite a competitive advantage that we had because it's just so much engineering. There's just so much research invested into it that we have a strong IP and that also gives us this advantage. So it's not quite easy to copy what we are doing. And third was literally now, so you need to show that the solution that you are building, that you are selling, is something that will not go away in the next months, right? So it will stay there. It's sticky. And it's especially sticky in our customers' business. And this is, I mean, it has also the downside that it's a little bit slower in terms of the sales process, right? So like the customers check everything through and they also see like, oh, here I have some sort of lock-in effect because like I depend on like a software company to automate all my process. But on the other side, if I use it and it works, it's just like I cannot do it without it. And these were actually, I would say, the 3 main components that you actually need to prove nowadays. Yeah.
So you've raised with Seed and Speed Ventures, Bloom Ventures, and Matterway Ventures, and sorry for my pronunciation, AWS Gondorf Fund.
Yes, Gründerfeuer.
I mean, I guess you spoke to a lot of people, but what made you click maybe with them? I mean, it's some sort of both ways. It goes both ways. So, I mean, they like you for the reasons you just mentioned. Yeah. If you could describe maybe the reasons why you went with them, I mean, did they strike you as particularly knowledgeable in that space? Or?
So we actually have a very good mix of investors. And what was important for us was like to have one investor that is interested in deep tech, in the technological part, in the product, and in also what our vision is. Secondly, to have an investor that can help us scale, especially in terms of sales, revenue, and everything. And then having strong backers from the industry also as a generalist. So, and this is actually the mix that we actually created. So we were also very lucky that that they said like they quite fast understood what we are solving and also the potential. They were like, we want to get into this deal. And this is also like now, especially now that the collaboration with our investors, it's quite comfortable to have all of these different perspectives. Yeah. So have like a perspective that where we need, for instance, like in terms of sales departments, how to build them up, how to actually create a culture there and so on. So you have like really, I would say, an expert on our side that is able to tell us this is how other companies did it. On the other side, we have a VCs that is really like, how can we protect our IP? How can we protect, how can we actually invest more? Collaborate maybe with research universities, they know how to do it. They have companies that already did it. And this is very vital for us, yeah.
And you mentioned that there needs to be some KPIs that are met in order to achieve a successful round. So did you have to self-fund basically to get to that point? So, rather than going straight out to investors, did you have to self-fund to get some initial revenue in before you went to the round or how did it work?
I mean, we actually, how we did it, we had a pre-seed round 1.5 years ago. This was with two first venture funds that invested in this round, and then we had like the second round. So we did it quite structured. So that means like what we did is like we said like, okay, in the next year we'd like to do like a seed funding, and then we planned it out, and then we kicked it off and went through the process. Yeah. So actually, I have always been like started actually the whole thing with VC funding, actually after our research and development phase. So the VCs came in before we had the product launch. So we already had the technology, we already had the product, and we had the technology to show. We didn't do it before a pre-product, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that seems to be a trend that we're seeing as well. There's a lot more pre-seed funds. I mean, the VCs seem to be moving earlier as well in the process. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I mean, maybe not into pre-seed stage, but then for your seed round now, I'm sure there must have been a big technical due diligence side, right? So how do you approach that? Because who's really equipped to understand, I mean, from a VC perspective, the technical aspects? Are there firms that do that? Or how does
they usually hire a consultant, and these consultants are specialized companies that really focus on technical due diligence. What they do, they go through all of your technical stack so that they get access to our systems. They go through the whole code, and they do interviews with our key employees into the software development.
So did they hire like ex-colleague of yours?
That would have been fun, yeah. No, I think it was quite straightforward, and we also liked the process because we were software engineers talking to software engineers. So it was quite straightforward. I would say it was very fast. So I would say 2 weeks in total.
Yeah, super quick.
That's very quick. I mean, they had I think 3 people on it, and they went through all the code. Probably there is also a lot of automation on their side. And then they created a list of inputs, what we should do, what we should focus, and so on. Yeah.
But then how do you manage the IP side of things? So the IP risk, I guess you have to provide everything, and you never know if word goes around. So how did you manage to manage that?
The thing is, I mean, the answer is always you have good lawyers, right?
Yeah.
Have good lawyers that actually help you out. The thing is, it's always the question in IT, there is always the question, do you want to protect it via patent? Or do you just want to actually not disclose what you're doing and how you're doing it? Yeah. Usually in the European side, you don't disclose it, right? So you don't do it openly, because patents, especially in the IT software space, it's not that easy to get a patent in Europe and then to protect it. Yeah. So we do have both ways. So we have a key methodology that we have implemented, which we have patented. Yeah, so it's still we filed it. It's still pending. So in the US and in Europe, and on the other systems, especially if you're talking around AI, we did not patent it, and we keep it actually under copyright, very strict copyright methods here. Yeah, and we have again coming back. So you need actually a good partners that actually look at your IP and also monitors it. Yeah. So and here we're talking about for instance, IP, especially which is technical IP. It can also be trademarks, right? Trademarks, you have to need to be registered as a trademark. Are there companies coming near your trademarks? So all of things is actually managed from our partners. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And I mean, just curious to understand. So the first round that you did, I'm guessing that was, when was it? 2021 or?
No. That was 2024. Yeah.
Oh, 2024. Oh, okay. The pre-seed round.
I'm thinking now 2020. This year is 2025. So no, 2023, end of 2023.
2023. Yes. So were you still in this? So I guess you weren't. You were no longer in the free money era post COVID. I guess where everybody was investing in everything.
Yeah. No.
So you still So I'm guessing it was quite a difficult round. But what felt different between those 2 rounds? So right now we're again in a climate where you have changes. So is it much different now, much harder, or what would you say?
I would rather say it's we are in a different stage of the company, right? So in a pre-seed stage, you focus on the founders. So in the quick question is can they make it to the next round in terms of, not in terms of money or revenue and so on, but literally in terms of it's going to be challenging. So can they survive? Can they hold together? Do they know what steps need to be taken? So I think that's really that you need to have a gut feeling and say I can trust this guy, and these guys are crazy enough actually to do it. The second round is more financially driven already. Yeah. So here they literally look at your sales pipeline. They look at what customers you have. Is it proven? Again, is it sticky? And what is the product and so on? Not on the technical part, but really more on the business case part. And the next round, so Series A, is going to be even more that. Yeah. So it's going to be always more financially driven. So at the end, you will only have you give me 10 million, I will bring you back 100 million, right? So this will be actually the proposal. Yeah.
Makes sense. And so did you feel that the environment was a little bit more selective this time, or was it just that it was a different stage?
It's getting very selective, yeah. So there is we are entering the area of fast fashion of software as a service, how they call it. You have a lot of companies popping up. They're also doing a lot of good revenues and so on. And the question is like, why should they invest in us? Why should they invest in us, or why should they invest in another company? So yeah, there's still the feeling that there are a lot of funds. There is a lot of money to be deployed, especially in Europe. However, they are very selective in where to deploy, and they also do more due diligence. Yeah, so they really also look at the product even more. They looked at what problem are you solving and so on. Yeah, and how competitive are you in the next years? And that's a crucial question. Now, I think ChatGPT, Gemini, I think they are maybe crashing X business cases, hundreds of business cases per week as we speak, right? So they can just automate process. They can automate software development. I mean, and that's why an investor is looking at it and say like, how defensive are you, right?
Yeah.
And it will be better as AIs will get stronger, and it will, especially in the software development, they will really, really increase the quality. Yeah.
So for this, it's a bit of a side question of your views on AI. So you're saying that ChatGPT is cracking business models after business models.
Yes.
How do you essentially reconcile with lovable, first making a lot of money, but raising so much money, while they are essentially based on open AI models and Gemini, etc. Because from what you just said, maybe it's just a matter of a year or something like this, where OpenAI will say, hey, by the way, you can simulate your code directly into a browser. And then
Gemini can automatically create apps and websites already, right? So you're asking the correct question, right? So like, how competitive are you in the future if you actually rely on a infrastructure stack, or like even on I would say on algorithms that can do actually the same. And in terms of lovable, I think lovable at the end they need to convert it into a brand that everyone knows, that everyone trusts, and that you would still go to lovable just because it makes your life so much easier. I mean, you can do stuff with Gemini, but it's easier and faster with lovable, right? So, and I think if they are already big, as they are already quite big in terms of revenue, and they have a very good foundation, very good people. That's also a very core part. They have very good people, very good engineers, and they will definitely make it. The question is like, what happens to a lot of, I would say, like small companies, right? That are wrapping around ChatGPT, wrapping around Anthropic. So what happens to them? Because like, especially now, customers, the huge corporations, it's very interesting to start programming their small applications with these AIs. So they can, a lot of use cases, they just can do it in-house. Yeah. And this will be an interesting case. Yeah. What happens to them? They don't have this like budget actually or branding to defend themselves. Yeah. And this will be very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, understood. Thanks for the side comment.
What about the funding ecosystems in Austria? I mean, I know a little bit about Germany, and I know that Germany isn't necessarily known as the most technologically fast-paced market. I mean, it's changing a little bit now, but I don't know about Austria and how it works there. But did you have enough opportunities to find funding within the local ecosystem, or did you have to go outside?
So the short answer is it's very easy or very good to start a business in Austria. However, to scale it, you need to go to Germany. Yeah. So the big money is in Germany. Yeah. So that also was our case. It was really good. You get a lot of support. You also get research and development grants in Austria. When you start doing the big rounds, when you start to getting investors on board, you go to Germany.
Okay. So thinking about just the construction market generally as well. So it's slowed down a little bit across Europe, financing costs and maybe reduced new bills and sluggish growth. So has that made your job harder, or has it somehow paradoxically created more demand for cost saving?
I would say last year it was tough. The market was tough, and not because there was no need on new solutions, just because there was a different focus in the market. Yeah. So there were a lot of players that were on survival mode last year. This year there are still some around, yeah, but it's getting better. Yeah. So the market is actually improving. I think we hit the bottom, yeah, especially in Germany, and I think it's definitely going up again. Yeah. Especially in the construction market. But yeah, I think that was like definitely a huge thing. Yeah, you were talking to customers and they were like super impressed in what we were doing, and at the end they were like, "Look, I have other problems currently. Yeah, I need to focus on different things." And some of them came back and they said, like, look, now we need to kick it off. It's getting better. We need to increase revenue now. We need actually we have more projects coming in. And now we are getting back to focus on improving our offering, improving our services and so on.
Yeah, and final question on that side of things. So you mentioned Germany as a potential market that you're looking into expanding into. So if you had to relocate Optimuse, anywhere, is that where you'd probably be looking at potentially expanding in that market, or is it more you'd look at other?
So we are already in Germany. I would say
okay.
Around 70% of our revenue comes from Germany.
Sure.
Yeah, or even more. So we are in Germany. We're still based in Vienna here. We can operate in Germany without any issues. All employers are in Vienna here. We will think on expanding to Germany, especially if it comes to customer success, like our team members that will be with the client if they need something, or especially sales. But it will be along the way next year. So currently there are no further plans there. So we'll expand here in Austria.
Right. Makes sense. So you don't necessarily need to move your offices there.
No.
You can just operate from Vienna and you can still target the German market. It's no problem.
We can operate in all Europe. Yeah, we have customers all Europe, even like in Singapore, in Hong Kong. So that's absolutely no problem. Yeah.
So even with regulations, etc., I mean, there is no boundaries for your product to.
Yeah. So there are lots of regulations, especially in the construction market. So there are local laws and there are regional laws and so on. So how it usually works is like our system can actually calculate all the applicable laws that you can actually imagine, right? So the interesting thing is here that we say like you could do this based on the norm. However, there is also an alternative which is way better, way cheaper, way more optimal, more sustainable. And then I would say the investor or like the property developer can decide which one to take, right? So there is no law to say you have to do this. There are like in terms of security or safety, yes, there are. And then there is just one solution, you have to do this. But on the other side, in terms of the systems, you can actually decide and how you would like to implement the project. You just need to provide the minimum requirements. So we can cover actually all the regulations. We can even cover, so our system, if our customers upload their methodologies or their restrictions, we can even optimize based on that.
Okay, it's on a case-by-case basis, so it's quite complete.
Yeah. So there are customers that say like, for me, I always want to have like components that do this and this and this. So I only want to select this component, and then we can actually select the best providers for that. Yeah.
Okay. And so with the 4 million you raise, I mean, what does success look like within the next 12 to 18 months? I mean, do you have some sort of strategy maybe to reach a form of a situation of profitability before maybe you raise again? Or are you more like in the state of mind where you will burn, you know that in 24 months you need to raise? And what's the mentality?
So the mentality is to give our investors that already invested in us a return. Yeah, in terms of like increased evaluation and increase of revenue. That means we very much think of, we got now 4 million euros in seed round. We need to at least triple or 4 times increase their revenue before going to another round. We closed it. First off, we are on a good track, right? So like we close it in the mid of this year, and we already tripled our revenue. So that's our case. Yeah. So we very much look into a healthy burn rate, and also to look based on milestones. How can we expand the team? Where to invest our money? So very much, I would say, like always thinking of where is the return. Yeah.
So you're beefing up the team on the sales side, or
Yes.
Engineering too, or mostly sales at the moment?
So we are massively increasing, I would say, now the sales and marketing budgets. So a whole sales department will be built up now in the upcoming months, and also marketing will be built up and with a marketing budget and all experts in it and so on. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's actually the current focus. Yeah.
Okay. And so, well, I mean, the story is still relatively young in some way. I mean, what would be like the main lessons you've learned, like so far? So maybe in terms of human resource management, in terms of relationships with your co-founders, because I'm sure that it's also a roller coaster too. It's like, marriage. So sometimes it's everything is pink. Sometimes everything is a bit darker. So what are like the key lessons you've learned so far?
Yeah. So definitely our key lesson is like get the right co-founders. Yeah. So I think with the three of us, we get along really well. We have complementary skills. That means we have very good structured, like who is doing what in the company, and they are usually also topic expert. So this works out well. So we always thought, if we were taking decisions, the three of us, we always fought for the best of the company, and that was very important. So there was never like in the last 4 years, like there was never like where we was like, okay, not deciding something or like maybe going against each other. That was never the case. So that's actually very, very important because it's quite challenging. It's definitely challenging to build up a company, and you need to keep it together. At least it's the founders until you bring in that experts that are also helping you on the similar level.
Is it something is it something you essentially assessed from the beginning? So you had the idea, you said, okay, we need to develop that product. And did you sit down and said, hey guys, let's be aware that we need to essentially assess our own team to make sure that we are the right people to work together?
Yeah.
Did you do that at the beginning, or did you realize, in the end, we were lucky, we were all like complementary blocks?
It's actually a good question. So if you ask, like, did you think or did you analyze? No, absolutely not. So we knew each other already quite long. Yeah. So like Felix was my roommate for like 8 years. So I got along, and Fabian he's one of my best friends for like 10 years. So yes, we knew each other and we knew that we are complementary. So it was always clear, I have to do business. I have to do the business part of the company. It was always clear Felix will take care of the development. And it was always clear Fabian will take care of the product because he's the only one that can do. I'm the only one that can do business because I have business experience and Felix has like software experience. So that was always clear. That was also like a huge part of like how we founded the company, because like even like where we're pivoting, it was me and Fabian that were like going around and trying to talk, but Felix was like able to focus. Felix was able to actually bring everything forward. So I think that's very important. It's not always that easy. It's not always the case, but then it's very important if you have people having the same skills, then you have like a very clear structured way of like, okay, what ownership do you have? Where will you actually grow your responsibilities in? Where do I have my responsibilities? That's very important because otherwise you have conflicts. Yeah.
No, makes sense. Maybe to essentially close down the discussion, why would you advise someone not to be an entrepreneur?
Not to be an entrepreneur.
Yes. I mean, there are a lot of things like pushing people to be their own boss, like to do their own things, freedom, ability to do whatever you want. Always like with a caveat, be careful, it's a roller coaster, but look how successful those people are. So, I mean, maybe you're asking the questions, reverse. Why do you think someone should not start his or her own thing?
I'm also one of these people that always say like you should do something. However, if you understand what you need to invest and what you need to give up for that. What do you need to invest? What do you need to give up for it? You give up a lot of free time. Yeah. So we are working so much, and the company is our life. Like it's like we work sometimes through the weekends, we work in the night, and it's everything. Right? So we give up a lot of time, a lot of hobbies that you could actually do in this free time. And secondly, what you invest. And in terms of investment, you also take a lot of risk. You usually you don't get paid quite a lot until you reach a specific size of the company, a specific revenue. So it's a big investment of your time, of your money, and you need to believe in the return. And we all here started not thinking of we want to get like 2, 3, or 10 million euros out of it. We started because we were like, we want to build something. We want to achieve something. We still are. We say like we want to make it big. We don't say like as soon as we reach 5 million per each, then we are out. So we are all here actually for the long term. And I think that's also like what was very important. So you need to really understand the game where you're gonna play.
Dominik, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to share that hour with you and to learn more about Optimuse. Really, I wish you all the best for the future, and I hope you will get not big but enormous. So
And
all
exactly.
the best for the future. And Markus, thank you very much again for sharing that moment with us. So thanks, guys.
Thank you
thanks
very
so much,
much.
Dominik.
It was really
Cheers.
nice.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.